Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Play Illusion of Gaia. In the last part we got here to the Moon Tribe Summit thing, and now we're going to continue on. If you remember in the last part, we actually got an Incan Statue, Incan Statue A to be specific. This is the room where you get the second one, Incan Statue B, but to do it, you have to kill all 6 of these caterpillars in 20 seconds. 3 strikes, if you did everything that I've done, should be enough to take them down. A Psycho Dash can one-hit KO them, but that takes too long to charge up. It's overall easy, though, and for doing that, you get Incan Statue B. I think that's the quickest we've ever gotten something done in a video on this channel. Well, actually, maybe one of the Zelda videos. Oh, that's right, you guys will have seen Zelda 1 by this point. Sometimes I forget what I have recorded. And anyway, once you do that, talk to Lily, and you'll be able to continue on. And go to the Incan Ruins. Yeah, my father summoned me. I don't want to fight the demons, but if my father's alive, I'll risk anything to see him. You really don't understand until you lose your parents. Typical. I understand. Let's go to the ruins. And thus they head to the Incan Ruins. How they got there in such a short time span, I have no idea. Seriously, are these kids Sonic or something? How fast can they possibly run? Unless this world's just really, really small. In which case the gravity should be that of, like, Pluto. And the Incan Ruins. This is an interesting place. Here's the entrance to the ruins. They say that this is where the puzzle of the Incan legend is hidden. I heard the story from the Elder when I was a child. After being invaded, the Incas decided to leave their native land to find a new world. They secretly built a huge ship and filled it with priceless gold artifacts. But there's no record of the ship leaving. That's probably the Incan gold ship in the story. I don't think the Elder has ever told that story to any outsider. I wonder what he wants you to do. I think what she's talking about is if I talk to someone in specific in her village, but I'm not too sure. And what? Oh, are you kidding me? You're leaving. You're so mean. Leave me be. Yeah, I can't speak apparently. Why are you in a place like this? It's dangerous. Lola told me about this place. I've been waiting. I thought you left me. You should tell me where you're going. What's Will looking for in the ruins? I can't just wait around and eat while Will's working so hard. I'm waiting here for Will to return. Well, a princess wouldn't understand. I'll wait for you here, okay? When did you make that jump? Well, I remember what the Elder said. Put the statue on the Laroy. I have no idea how to pronounce it anyway. Laroy, I don't know. Either way, she just gave us a hint for a puzzle that is really simple. But yeah, welcome to the... Well, welcome to Laroy Cliff, more accurately. There was a tremendous wind at the Laroy Cliff. That's probably what the old man meant by the breath of the spirits. This is the cliff with no wind. My heart beats fast. I think he does those little monologues every time you enter a new dungeon. But yeah, welcome to the Laroy Cliffs, the first actual dungeon in the game. First off, the first enemy here is the Mudmen. Thankfully, even easier than the ones in Symphony of the Night. 8 HP, nothing too bad, and I don't know if they actually attack other than touch damage. What I just destroyed there was, I believe, a forehead. These are all names that fans have given them. I'm not sure if that's their actual names. The foreheads, and that's F-O-U-R, not like forehead, have 2 kinds of attacks. They can either shoot arrows diagonally or in the normal 4 cardinal directions. It all depends on what your location is in accordance to theirs, but that also might vary depending on the individual. You can also usually get blindsided like that. And as you notice on the top screen, I now have a heart with a 1 next to it. Well, first off, for beating all the enemies in this screen, we got a defense upgrade. That means I've collected 100 dark gems and now have an extra life. I've already mentioned what they do, but just in case, for the better explanation now. If I were to die now, I would start at the beginning of this room, instead of going back to the most recent dark space where I saved. Caterpillar enemies are the exact same as they were earlier, though. A good method to take up both the Mudmen and the Foreheads is to actually charge up a Psycho Dash, because you can use it as an attack, and it is rather damaging. See, 7 health. I think it might even one-shot a lot of enemies later on. Actually, I know it does. Another tactic you can use, especially with the Mudmen, is that if you actually hit an enemy to the point where it actually knocks into another enemy, both enemies will actually take damage. You'll see an example of that in a couple minutes. And one thing I will say... Actually, here's an example of it coming up right here. Like that. One thing I will say about this game's dungeons is that they can get long, so don't be surprised if a lot of them are multi-parters. In fact, this one is going to be 2 parts. I know the final one's probably going to take like 3 or 4 videos on its own. Actually, usually when it comes to games I Let's Play, I have a basic idea of how long they were going to be. Like, I knew Battle Network 4 was probably going to take me around 25 parts. I knew Zelda 1 was going to take me around 7 or so. But this one, I have honestly no idea. Anyway, for opening this chest, you get a diamond-shaped block. Sadly, it can't be used in Tetris. If you were paying attention in one of the earlier rooms, there was a spike bed. In fact, it's the room to the right here. And there's a little indent just to the right of it, if you notice. Pretty much walk up to that little hole and hit the right button. And use the block on it. And upon doing so, you trigger what is technically a trap, but it does nothing, other than give you a path. Laroy Cliff is actually split into pretty much 2 different sections, the outside and the inside. The outside generally has you going through little areas like this, and you might notice in certain portions of the rocks, there's actually little holes in them, like to the left of where that Mudman is. You're going to want to keep in mind the breaks here, because, well, first off, it'll be kind of useful for us later on. The one to the left that I'm actually showing off right now is break number 1, as I like to refer to it as. And the one on the right is break number 2. The break number 2 right here goes to the exact same place as that ladder, it's just quicker. Also, I like the attention to detail that outside, Will's clothes are moving in the wind, yet he said there's no wind earlier. But yet again, this game's translation's kinda crappy. Also, you can talk to a lot of the skeletons in this area, and they might give you hints. Like here, I think this one would tell you to use the Psycho Dash. I don't know where I'm going. I'm getting lost for some reason. Keep in mind, I don't do test playthroughs, so that's why I seem a bit lost in games sometimes. The only one that I know what I'm doing for a fact in is either a game I've played a lot or have notes for. Like the next RPG I'll be doing after this, but I'm not going to say that out loud. And we got an herb. I forget if I've mentioned this or not, but there are no shops in this game, so herbs are in limited quantities. So make sure you try and use them only when you really need them. And I don't think they recover that much HP either. Anyway, down here in break number 1 is where we need to go. Now that we have that herb. I should note that if you... the flute swing is actually very similar to something Zelda-like. For any of you that have played the Oracle games, or Link's Awakening, you would know that Link's sword actually goes into a quarter circle slash, and any part of that slash can hurt an enemy. It's the same here with Luke's. That's a different game, Kyle. With Will's flute. Luke is Tales of the Abyss, Kyle. Why was I thinking of Tales of the Abyss? And slime enemies. They can only attack you by touch damage as far as I'm aware, though they can seep back into the ground, which can get annoying because you have to wait for them to reappear. There's a ramp here, but we can't really go anywhere with that yet. And keep in mind that little floating head there on the left that I just passed. Because we'll be cutting back to this room later. The floating heads, I forget what attack they have, honestly. I'll probably see it next part, though. And now I have to wait. Perfect! Actually, I just realized, can you see the lower floors through the... Huh, I don't think I've ever noticed that. Never mind, I'm just... talking to myself out loud. Pretty much, I think I noticed that you can actually see the next floors through the holes in the ground. Anyway, this statue gives you an obvious hint. If you can move the gold statues, blah 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 blah. That actually has to do with something I'm fast-forwarding here coming up. Essentially, in this next room, there are 4 golden statues that will turn into enemies if you get too close to them. And I'm fast-forwarding playing music because this takes a while. Pretty much you have to use the telekinesis with the L and R buttons and put them onto the switches. It's simple, but if you mess up, you will have to restart the entire room by exiting and leaving. Exiting and re-entering, so you can do it all again. It can take some time. That was roughly, I believe, 14 seconds in the finished video, but I think that was around 2 minutes. And these blocks are supposed to be traps, but they don't really do anything. I don't even think you can get hit by them. If you can, I've never done it. And we got a dark space gateway. Might as well heal. And since there's a statue in here, that means we're turning into Freedom. I will say that in the early dungeons, once you get the statue to turn into Freedom, I recommend you do it, because likely you'll never need to turn back into Will. But later on in other dungeons, you will need to turn back into Will, and you can do so by entering a dark space that had a Freedom statue, and there will be a Will statue there now, allowing you to turn back into him. Like I said, not that you need to do that for a while. And our defense is increased. Booyah! And we're on a weird, creepy looking face. And you need to do this, by the way. What we're doing here is learning a new song for Will's flute. And I think it's the last song, too. Huh. And it still has a really long song that has to play, which is really annoying, honestly. And we got the Melody of Wind. That's the last song I think we learned for the flute in the entire game. But you do need it to progress, so make sure you do that. Anyway, if you remember, I said I was going to cut back to a room earlier. I'm going to do that now after talking to the skeleton, which apparently lost its life to a trap, which... bang. So yeah, now we're back here. And now that we have freedom, we can reach that thing, allowing us to make a new little path. Whee! Got actually no, 2 slimes here. And you're gonna wanna head up here before doing anything else. Because, I forget why. Well, first off, obviously you get another upgrade to your abilities. More HP is always good. Let's see, that's a total of 12 HP, so I'm about a fourth of the way done with them. That is actually a good way to gauge how far you are in the game with how much HP you have out of the 40. That's your maximum. Anyway, the statues, they can be rather threatening if you're at a distance, but for some reason they cannot attack you for crap if you're right in front of them. I'm not sure why, but I think the way that their hitbox works. Whoa, that is a video glitch there. And it caused audio desync. That's where it happened, huh? Well, essentially, since I know the frame loss was happening there, I killed that guardian in a floating head directly to the right of it. And doing that will cause that little blue ramp to appear there. So we can now come over here. Got 3 slimes, nothing too big here. Whenever you find a floating head, try and kill it as fast as possible, because it can be annoying if it's flying around and hard to hit. There's nothing to the west, so just head north. And over here you got another guardian. Which is guarding an herb. And more Guardians. Honestly, the Guardians are at their most annoying when they're in groups because you have so many enemies trying to attack you at once. It's kind of like certain other RPGs, where if there's more enemies surrounding you, it kind of gets more difficult to fight around them. Anyway, as you notice, these guys aren't transforming. That's because there are two different types of Guardians, technically. Ones that activate by proximity, and ones that activate after hitting a switch. These ones are the switch variety, and as you notice, they're actually getting a chance to hit me. That hurts. And now just head through the the door in the south. And you got 2 foreheads. Yet again, do these enemies actually have official names? Because that's an interesting thought. Mudmen and blue caterpillars, which are technically a different enemy, but honestly have no difference other than the color. And for beating all the enemies on the screen, we got a strength upgrade. And I will say, the only thing that strength actually impacts is boss fights. Strike that, reverse it. The only thing that strength upgrades increase is your damage against normal enemies. Boss fights, Freedom will always do 2 damage and will 1. So pretty much, it's, do you want an easier time fighting normal enemies? Here you go. Come up to the north here, because enemies. I will say the slimes are at their easiest when they're at in normal narrow pathways, because they don't really have much of a chance to move around. It's kind of like the metal slimes in Dragon Quest. If they get an opportunity to move, they will run as fast as they can. And 4 more Guardian switches, or Switch Guardians. And that's me showing off the radar. Because I forgot if I had done it yet. And I have 2 lives. Booyah. This was me forgetting where I actually had to go, because this is kind of an obscure little... Well, actually, it's because I was thinking ahead more accurately. Also, before you head up these stairs, go across this little pathway here, because there are 4 slimes over here that you'll miss if you run down that ramp. But with that, and those enemies killed, I'm gonna need to end this off here. Thank you guys for watching. Rate, comment, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. And next time on Let's Play Illusion of Gaia, we'll be continuing on in the Incan Ruins and finishing this dungeon off. See you guys then.